Hello everyone, it's Amanda from Wayward and Whimsical Creations, and today I am going to show you how to make these adorable baby dragon keychains / bag charms, and I will be showing you how to do both tail versions. Here is a list of the materials you are going to need, so pause to read. This material list will also be in the description of the video. Let's get into weaving. We are going to start by making all of our scale components first. So first up is the wings. Take your two large scales, overlap them like so, and then we are going to connect them together using two of our 18 SWG 5 30-second jump rings. So there's one. Ooh, that's a wonky ring. That happens sometimes. And there is two. Now, take your 16 gauge 5/16 rings and close them. Mine are already closed. One is going to go on top of the 5 30-second rings we just added, and then the other one is going to go underneath, essentially sandwiching our scales between the two rings. Then to lock those rings in place, we are going to use our 18 gauge 3/16 jump rings. Starting at the top, you're going to go through one of the rings, through our scale, and through the other ring on the other side. And then do it again on your other scale. So again, through one of our rings, through our scale, and through the ring on the other side. Flip your rings over, your wings over, and we're going to do the same thing on this side. Ooh, excuse me. Through the ring, through the scale, through the ring. One more time. Through the ring, through the scale, through the ring. So when it's done, it should look like this, okay? Set that to the side. Now we're gonna do the tail of our dragon, and there's two different ways you can do this. You can do two small scales and just overlap them like so, or you can do the shaggy scales. So if you're gonna go for the two small scales, you're just going to connect those together using three 18 gauge 9/64 jump rings. So overlap them like so. Starting at the front of the scale on the right, you're going to go through that scale, twist around, and then come out the scale on the left. And then do that 2 more times. So it should look like that. If you're going to go the shaggy scale route, you need about 8 petite scales. You could also use like the baby or itty bitty scales from We've Got Mail. But for this, I am using the petite scales from SPG Supplies. You're going to use 18 gauge 5 30-second jump rings. We're going to start by opening one of our rings and placing 2 of our petite scales on it back to back, like this. We're going to take another 5 30-second ring, open it, weave it through the previous ring, and then pop a scale on either side of our open ring, like so. And for the shaggy scales, depending on the color scheme I'm doing, I use anywhere between 8 to 10 of the scales. So again, open ring through the previous. Our scales get popped on to either side, like so. One last time. Open ring through the previous ring. Close it up. Set that to the side. Okay, now we're going to start working on the body, and we're going to start with the head. For the head, you need the 16 gauge 1/4 inch, the 18 gauge 1/4 inch, and the 18 AWG 5mm rings. So to start, we're going to take 2 of our 16 gauge rings, and we're just going to close them. And then we're going to take 2 of the 18 gauge 1/4 inch rings and close those as well. Now you don't have to do this step, but for the next step, I do like to pre-open my 18 gauge 1/4 inch rings. It just makes it a little easier when weaving. So open those and then set them to the side. Then we're going to take our 16 gauge 1/4 inch. We're going to open them. You're going to take your 2 18 gauge 1/4 inch, place them on that open ring. Your 2 16 gauge 1/4 inch, place them on the open ring. Close it. And then take our final 16 gauge 1/4 inch and again weave through all 4 of your closed rings like so. And then we need to arrange them so it's our 16 gauge, our 16 gauge, and then our 18 gauge. Now, our 18 gauge, we're going to slide back and they're going to go over the top of our 16 gauge. And then we're going to take our 18 gauge open rings. We're weaving in between these 2 16 gauge and then picking up the eye that our 16 and 18 gauge rings create when they overlap, like so. Close it up. And then do the same with your other 18 gauge ring. In between the 16 gauge and through the eye. Created by the 16 and 18 gauge rings. Close it. Then we're going to take our 18 AWG 5mm jump rings, holding your piece like so. It's going to go through these 2 rings and lay on top of this one. Flip it over and do the same on the other side. Then we're going to take our last 5mm rings, and again, going in between these two rings and through the eye that the 18 gauge 1/4 inch and the 5mm rings create. Close it. And then weave our 5mm ring the same way. And if you don't have 18 AWG 5mm rings, you can also use 18 gauge standard wire gauge 3/16 rings for this. It's just going to be a little bit of a tighter spot to weave these rings. Okay, so what you're left with is a little piece of graduated full Persian, and that is going to be our head. So now we are going to continue on with the body. We are going to take 2 16 standard wire gauge 7/32 jump rings, and we're weaving them in between these 1/4 inch rings at the top of the head. So this space right here, in between these two rings, is where we're weaving, like so. So 1, and 2. So it should look like this. Now, to the 2 rings we just added, we are going to switch over to 18 gauge 3/16, and we're going to start creating our Byzantine units, which make up the rest of the body. So to the 7/32 rings, we are going to add 2 of our 18 gauge 3/16. And then to these 2 rings, we are going to add 2 more of the same size. The rings we just added get folded back. These rings that sit on top now get spread apart, and we're going to weave 3/16, 18 gauge 3/16 through this space here. But before we close this ring, we need to attach it to our wings. So it's going to go through those 2 rings and then through these 2 rings on our wings. And we're going to add 3 rings here. So this is 1, 2, and 3. So right now our dragon should look like so. To these 2 rings, we are going to add 3 of our 18 gauge 3/16. And there's 1, 2, 3. And then we're going to continue our Byzantine. So to the 3 rings we just added, and we're still working with the 18 gauge 3/16. We're going to add 2 jump rings. To the 2 rings we added, we are going to add 2 more. Okay, these top rings get folded back like this. The first pair we added are now on top. We're going to spread those apart. And then our next 3 rings are picking up those rings we folded back. One, 2, 3. Okay, still working with our 3/16 rings. We are going to add 2 to the 3 rings we just added previously. And again, to those 2 rings, we are going to add 2 more. Okay, fold those top rings back. Our first pair of rings we added, we spread apart. Now we're switching sizes. We are going to switch over to our 18 gauge 5/32 jump rings. So this time we're only adding 2. Ooh, excuse me. So there's 1, 2. To the 2 rings we just added, we are going to add 2 more rings. And then to these 2 rings, you guessed it, we are adding 2 more. Okay, top rings get folded back. Our first set of rings are now on top. Those get spread apart. And then we are weaving through our folded back rings. like so. Oh my gosh. There we go. Couldn't get a good grip on my ring. And we're adding 2. Add another 2 to our previous set of rings. To these rings, we're adding 2 more. Top rings get folded back. First set of rings gets opened up. And then we're weaving through those rings we spread apart, picking up the rings we folded back. Okay, we're going to make 1 more unit of Byzantine. So to the rings we just added, we're adding 2. And we're still working with the 5/32. Those 2 rings, adding 2 more. Fold those top rings back. Our first set of rings is now on top. We spread those apart and add 2 jump rings through our ones that are folded back. And this is where we're going to add our tail. So if you're doing 2 small scales, you're going to weave 2 jump rings, and 1 is going to go through each scale. Like so. So then it looks like this when you're finished. And if you wanted to do the shaggy scale tail, you would just open the top ring and weave it through our final Byzantine unit. And that is your dragon finished. Then to add it to either a key ring or a large lobster claw, I just use some stainless steel 18 gauge 3/16 rings, and I weave them through the snout here at the tip. And that is how you create these super cute baby dragon keychains. Or bag charms, whichever you prefer. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you have any questions while you're making it, please feel free to drop them in the comments. And as always, if there are any other weaves you would like me to attempt making a tutorial for, please let me know. Happy weaving!